If you were watching the news over the last 2 weeks, you'd think the only thing that's been discussed in the House of Lords is the Rwanda Bill. Just to say that it's now been passed, it's going to be an act of Parliament, you'll have seen all the press coverage. And the main thing I wanted to say about it, just as it finally goes through as a piece of legislation, is that it was and is a nasty, small law that will not tackle the small boats crisis. The opposition to it in the Lords was completely, in my view, anti-democratic and equally nasty, in as much as anyone who expresses an interest or concern rather about people illegally arriving in the UK is considered to be beyond the pale of polite society. So what did I do? Well, I stayed around for a long time. I thought it was a performative bill by the Conservative Party. I thought the opposition from the Labour Party was performative because it had to be seen to be opposing it right until the end, but we all knew in the end they would give way. And what did I do? I stayed around to not vote and abstain. And somebody said to me, "Claire, you're performatively not voting, go home." So I did. I left it eventually about 10:30, even though everybody else stayed till midnight. But I can't say that, I'm just glad to see the back of it. But actually there's been a lot of things happening in the Lords in the last couple of weeks. I largely want to draw attention to a couple of amendments that I've been pushing in the Victims and Prisoners Bill in relation to, first of all, single-sex provision for women. A huge number of people imagine that if a service like Rape Crisis or Domestic Abuse Refuge says on the tin, says in the literature that it's by women, for women provision, that might just mean women, until you recognise that the category of woman and women has been hijacked, and women can now mean anyone who calls themselves a woman. And I was trying to clarify that, and I explained it in detail. And I thought it was relatively uncontroversial. I thought I might even get the backing of the Labour Party, who after all now say that they are able to acknowledge what a biological woman is. But no, what they did was they, unprecedented in the whole time that I've been in the Lords, both the Lib Dems and the Labour Party refused to speak on my amendment. Even the front benches, that's what they're supposed to do before the minister comes in, so they didn't do it. Anyway, yesterday I had a second amendment, and that was on whether statistics, crime data, you know, how many people commit crime and who they are, should be clearly identifiable as the sex that they are registered with at birth, so that we can't get any confusion where, for example, you know, somebody can say that is a woman and that woman raped this person. Obviously that's not true because it's not a woman, but nonetheless that's the kind of information that the police forces have got themselves in complete muddle over. So I explained it in great detail. I was actually really excited about the fact that Shabama Mahmood, who is the Shadow Justice Secretary, had come out and made a really great speech actually as the Shadow Justice Secretary, and therefore, you know, the Labour front bench spokesman on justice, saying that she supported J.K. Rowling's idea, you know, not idea, factual analysis that sex is immutable. And she also gave a very good speech about Me Too, as it happens, and why we shouldn't have justice by hashtag, but should rely on the courts and juries. But I thought then maybe, you know, the Labour Party might have softened a bit and they couldn't possibly ignore me again. Guess what? I finished my amendment and the Labour and Lib Dem front bench refused to speak again. And all I can say is, now I know what the real meaning of being stonewalled is. You know, they basically stonewalled my question, which is apt because it was like they were members of Stonewall. And it does mean that it's an inconsistent response from the Labour Party. And this is a particular shame because one of the great privileges of being in the House of Lords is that you get to go to special meetings. And I was one of the sponsoring peers of when Dr. Hilary Cass came and spoke to members of the House of Lords and indeed the Commons about the Cass Review, which has been in many ways a breakthrough in understanding the problems that we've had with young people and children in the way they've been treated if they have any gender discomforts. We know all about the Tavistock Clinic. This is a properly evidenced 4 years worth of work, all the research there, and Dr. Hilary Cass was an absolute joy to behold. Wonderful to hear her speak. calm, non-ideological, very, very clear. And it was a packed room, and even some people who might be sceptical around gender critical issues attended. And I was again delighted, because they might well be the government soon, that Wes Streeting, as the Shadow Health Minister, had actually welcomed the caste review and said that he had been wrong in the past to say that trans women were women, and therefore you hope things have improved. My experience in the Lords is don't trust them yet, not even remotely. I'm not suggesting that the Conservative government are, you know, entirely to be trusted, but at least the minister had the, you know, showed a bit of respect for the issue, did some research and responded very positively. The only other things that I want to say is that I will be and continue to raise issues around the new Leasehold Bill, which is coming into Parliament. I know that some people think, oh God, they're going on about leasehold. I don't really understand it, when the big issue is housing and the crisis around housing. There are 5 million leaseholders in this country. A lot of people who are going on the housing ladder for the first time are actually leaseholders. They don't even know the implications of being a leaseholder, which is that you think you're buying a house and you're not really. Shared ownership, one of the big ideas put forward by the Conservatives that would allow you to part buy your house. Actually, you're part buying a leasehold to a house. You are getting stung head over fist by incredibly awful, ever-increasing, uncontrolled service charges. And everybody now agrees. You know, Michael Gove, who is in charge of this bill, said we must abolish leasehold. Guess what? When the bill actually turns up, it's an anodyne, dull piece of work. But the big thing that I wanted to say to you is I put an amendment forward the other day. This is a historic moment in counter to what I've just said. I argued my case for a sunset clause that would at least mean that in 5 years' time leasehold would eventually be gone, because this bill has not done that. And to my absolute shock, the front bench spokesman, Lord Kennedy, Roy Kennedy, who's also the chief whip for the Labour Party, turned around and said, Baroness Fox, I just want to say, and I immediately thought, oh God, no, he's going to attack me. And he said, I completely agree with this amendment, and should you in the future wish to press it to a vote, we will support you. I subsequently got an email from the Lib Dem benches saying exactly the same. I wouldn't exactly hold your breath, but watch your space. I might actually get something passed in the House of Lords rather than just talking about it. So even when I'm in despair about some of the sectarianism from the opposition benches, every now and then, just occasionally, some of them are actually quite inspiring and you feel like you can do something positive. That's it for now. I think that the main thing that you have to know about Parliament is it is forever a frustrating process. Don't believe just what you see on the news. Take a look at my speeches, sign up to our free Substack so that you can keep getting a behind the scenes update on what happens in Parliament that they don't tell you on the telly, and I'll tell you the unvarnished truth.